What if I told you that Native American mental health is one of the most overlooked issues in the country right now? You'd probably agree with me, but it's not for the reasons you'd think. The thing is, though, in order to explore this problem, I had to get an inside perspective. Luckily for me, I have a leader of the Chumash tribe of Southern California as a contact and a friend, and I interviewed him about how he felt general indigenous well-being could be improved. Be warned though, because everything you thought about indigenous peoples will be flipped on its head in this video. Without further ado though, sit back, grab some popcorn or whatever you like to eat, relax, and without further ado, enjoy the unseen plight of Native American mental health. Before I tell you exactly what the issues are, I think it's important to get a few misconceptions out of the way so that you guys know what the issues are not. In order to do this, I asked an indigenous leader who, for the purposes of identity protection, shall be known as Steve for this video. I basically just asked him a couple questions relating to indigenous mental health and what's going on behind the scenes. The first question I gave him was the following. Is there any one thing that you think outsiders don't understand about Native Americans, and why? In my opinion, Steve's response does a great job silencing some of the stereotypes that are inevitably held by a large part of the population in today's society. And he says, I think that some outsiders think all Native Americans are dead. Some folks don't realize that we are still alive and thriving. Also, every Native American doesn't get money from a casino, and we're not living off the government. There are actually 3 things I want to highlight here, which are, 1, Native Americans still exist in much larger numbers than you'd think, living all different kinds of lifestyles, not just like the primitive rural style. There's many Native Americans that are living in cities and have traditional American jobs. 2, while casinos can be very helpful for generating revenue for the tribe, I would compare casino revenue for tribes to tourist revenue for some countries, but the country is not completely dependent on tourism in order to survive, you know? Many of them are completely self-sufficient economically, and they don't need the government's help either. And yeah, that was the third thing. They don't need the government's help. Pretty obvious, but with those stereotypes out of the way, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this issue. To answer that question, though, funnily enough, I have to ask another question. Here, I asked Steve, what kind of support, if anything, do you think Native American communities need the most to improve the general well-being of the community? Steve's answer here kind of surprised me, honestly. This is what he had to say. The first question is really difficult to answer. What do I think communities need for improved mental health? Each Native community is drastically different from one another. It's impossible for me to know what tribes in Alaska need, or in Massachusetts, or in Florida, or in Oklahoma. I can only speak for my tribe, which is in the Southern California area, and even then, my tribe's need it's in Southern California might be different than another tribe in Southern California. Locally, we are involved in the state of California's Truth and Healing Council, which aims to address historical trauma and works to make some reparations. In a macro level concept, the government needs to honor all treaties. So my first reaction to all this was something like, the simplest answer really is the right one, but if you dig a little deeper, that's not exactly what's going on here. What I don't think most people are aware of right now is that not only does the government have a terrible track record honoring treaties that they make with indigenous peoples, I can't think of a single treaty that the government has made that they actually honored. And honestly, that's just really depressing. Like, come on, America. You can do better than this. You have enough money already. A couple examples I can point out are, first of all, you guys probably learned about the Trail of Tears in history class, but the reason that that whole event unfolded is because a Cherokee chief was essentially held at gunpoint and forced to give up all of the tribe's land and put a bunch of innocent people on a forced march away from it, hundreds if not thousands away to the reservations in Oklahoma and Kansas. A lesser known example though is, did you know that the takeover of Hawaii basically happened by a bunch of business conspirators led by a guy named Sanford Dole? Yeah, that's the same guy who funded that terrible canned fruit company. I don't understand how bro managed to ruin canned cherries and pineapple, but it's bad. That takes me back to my school lunch days. He held Queen, let me see if I'm pronouncing this right. Liliuokalani. I don't know if that's right, but I did my best. And he held her at gunpoint as well, threatening to kill her and her citizens if she did not comply with their demands. This kind of historical trauma is especially alarming to me because Native Americans have a very long history of being stewards of the land, believing that they are part of nature and that Mother Earth comes first. So being deprived of this land means they're no longer able to take care of it. And that brings me into the personal story of Steve's tribe, where their sacred island, Limu, which you guys probably know as Santa Clara Island, was forcibly taken from them by Spanish colonists and renamed. So they haven't been able to access their sacred place in a very long time. And this kind of thing doesn't just go away by talking to a therapist. This problem is bigger than anything a psychiatrist or a psychotherapist could provide. We need big legal action. We need to spread awareness of these kinds of issues so that we can have lawyers and courts on our sides in order to actually get these treaties to be honored. A lot of this work is already happening, but if there was more funding, I bet we would see a much larger push for reparations for the indigenous tribes where their land has been forcibly taken away. I'm not saying that their land will be given back to them, but some kind of compensation has to happen, or this kind of trauma is just never going to go away. And that's it. The unseen plight of Native American mental health. If you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing, as doing that will help this video reach a much larger audience. And if any of my videos deserve to do that, it's this one. With that though, this is Twigs Change Project signing off, wishing you a happy holidays, and as always, peace.